What's up, y'all? This is Dosha with DoshaDreamsTarot, and this is a reading for the sign of Virgo. This is for Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus signs, or wherever you have Virgo in your chart. Please keep in mind this is a general reading, so it may or may not resonate with you. Just take what does and leave the rest for somebody else. Cross watchers, you are welcome here, but just keep in mind that this is Virgo's reading, so I might talk shit about you. You can't get mad. Sorry, some folks are doing some target practicing right now, so you might hear some gunfire. If that's triggering for you, heads up, and maybe this reading is not for you at the moment. It's nothing too crazy, no rapid fire automatic weapons, it's just a rifle out there. But anyway, just wanted to mention that. What else? Gender's fluid, so don't get caught up on gender. I do read energy as it comes through. If it comes through strongly, I will say something, but, you know, just take it at surface level. You can swap things around if you feel like it resonates more that way, okay? You do you, boo. What else? That's it, really, I guess. Oh, yeah, please do like, share, comment, and subscribe before you leave. It's a free and easy way to support me and my channel grow so I can keep getting these messages out to more and more folks. So it hopefully reaches the person that it's meant for, okay? So, Virgo. Whew. Thank you so much, Spirit, for your divine messages and guidance. We are deeply grateful, and we know we couldn't do this without you. Would you please help guide Virgo for their highest good, Spirit? Oh, Jesus. Okay. Hold up. We're taking all these back. We're going to knock this deck, and we're going to get it back in order. Thank you so much, Spirit. Would you please help guide Virgo for their highest good, Spirit? And please bless us and protect us as we move forward into this reading. Thank you so much, Spirit. Any messages for Virgo? Messages for Virgo, Spirit? Where is Virgo at in this journey right now? Okay. Maybe the start of something new for you. Could also be an offer coming in. Okay. There they go. Okay. Maybe you're having a hard time, not really certain, maybe not really certain what to do about this new beginning here. You may be trying to start something new. It could also be an offer coming in and you know, aren't really quite sure. But it's, okay, all three? Okay, all four. Okay, Two of Swords at the bottom of the deck. This is definitely talking about coming unblocked and making a decision here. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay, I'm getting a couple things, and you know, typically I shouldn't say typically, I should say that as a tarot reader, you know, first and foremost, I'm here to support you guys and help guide you through whatever situation is coming up, and be supportive and encouraging, okay? Part of that also means giving you advice if Spirit is giving me advice to give to you, right? But also I do want to validate your concerns and your feelings about things, because I do think that those really, when we aren't sure about something, it's for a multitude of reasons. It can be either because we're afraid of an outcome, which that could sometimes be very justified. You know, you're like, oh, well, that is a likely outcome, or that is a possible outcome, so is it worth the risk, okay? And that's a very valuable tool to discern decision making, right? So, you know, I really don't subscribe to the concept of, you know, fear is a negative emotion, and so therefore fear is bad, and we avoid fear at all costs, and we don't ever make decisions based on fear. And so, yes, to a certain extent, we don't want to be fearful of something, and that prevent us from taking a risk. But at the same time, we don't want to ignore our feelings and ignore our fear, because sometimes it can be very justified, and fear is there to protect us. Okay, fear is a valid and a very important emotion. Okay, and a lot of people, I do think, can become caught up in fear and get stuck in fear, live in fear, and have paranoia. And paranoia is when you are concerned and worried about something that is either irrational, right? Like it's not likely that it'll happen, or it is just unfounded in reality, right? Which is basically like, believing that it's possible that something is happening where that it's, although it might be possible because anything's possible, but how likely is it, and what evidence do you have to support that, right? So I think with this situation, it's like, I think that's exactly the questions you're asking yourself. This is exactly the balance that you're trying to find here. Because you are concerned about taking a leap of faith with something new here, because you're afraid of a potential outcome. But you want to be aware of whether or not this is coming from an intuitive nudge of concern, or if this is coming from a place of paranoia, right? And it is difficult to discern, especially when we live in a world that is so stimulating and we have so many things to be afraid of now, right? Like before, you have to think about our ancestors. Our ancestors were afraid of, predators like wild animals, afraid of other people, of course, because we've always been, a threat to one another, unfortunately. And, nature, like the weather, like or illness, right? So these are like factors outside of us, like we could get sick or we could get injured, or a weather event could happen, or, like I said, we could encounter a wild animal or eat something poisonous, right? Like I'm trying to break things down so that because in the past, that was really what we were working with, you know what I mean? We didn't have to be afraid of many other things, right? Besides if you know what I mean? I think the ancient cultures were aware of the spirit realm. And so I think that to a certain extent, they were probably afraid of some of the energies, right? That are kind of floating around that you can interact with or interact with you, right? Unfortunately, right? But that's just the reality. So, I mean, I think some people don't believe in that, and that's fine. But that is, I think, a lot of people's reality is interacting with the spirit world. So anyway, I'm just saying that now we have so many, like, it's just gotten infinitely more complex, where now it's like, is there a camera in my, in my home, you know what I mean? Like, these are the types of paranoid thoughts that I have, which is like, you know what I mean? Is it possible that someone put a tracking device on my vehicle and I don't know, because they could have just stuck it under my bumper and I would have no idea, right? Like, so that's like super paranoid thinking, but it's like, the infinite possibilities of things that you could be paranoid about are just so many that it's like, you could be like, can I trust this person? Is this contract legit? If I take this opportunity, could this person, you know what I mean? Like, could this end up being this is feeling almost like a risk, a financial risk, okay? So it could be either taking somebody up on an offer, or it could be starting a new business and investing money into something, and you're not sure if you're going to get a return on your investment, basically. Okay, it's feeling like a risky move. So here I'm going to break down the cards. So you've got the High Priestess in reverse. So this is why I say that I feel like this is having to do with trying to discern what is your intuition and what is unfounded fear, because I think justified fear is incredibly important. Justified fear is actually life-saving, right? So if you are driving down the freeway and all of a sudden, a car swerves in front of you, then your first initial reaction is going to be fear. You're going to be like, I'm afraid I'm going to hit that car. And that is what is going to trigger your automatic responses to be like, oh, you're going to take your foot off the gas and put your foot on the brake, right? You're going to turn to avoid the vehicle, right? So it's like, fear is what powers that. You know what I mean? And fear can save your life, right? Like, you could be walking down, the street, and you see somebody who, who makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And so you cross the street to get away from this person, you know what I mean? And this person is a dangerous person, right? It was your fear that caused you to avoid, right? Fear creates avoidance. Avoidance is how we prevent ourselves from interacting with harmful elements, right? Harmful people, harmful like situations. Like this is, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell you that fear is valid, and fear is actually something that can help us, but we have to be able to communicate with it well. And I think a lot of times if we suppress our fear and we see it as a negative emotion, then it has a hard time doing its job, and it will start to surface in ways that are just, you know what I mean, irrational or unhealthy, right? So it's important, but it's difficult for us to distinguish sometimes. Is this my intuition telling me that this path might have a negative consequence? We do have the ability to look at potential outcomes, and some of us do have the gift of premonition, right? So we can tell potential outcomes based on what we know, our information, and then there's things that we don't know, but we can feel, right? So someone could be telling you all the right things, but something about their energy is telling you, like, I don't trust this person. I think they're lying to me. This is how we're able to avoid situations based on our intuition, is we like, it doesn't feel right to me. Something doesn't feel right. And it's not really worth the risk here. So that's what okay. The most difficult decisions, Virgo, are the decisions that have a potential high return on your investment, where that this risk could result in a what do you call it? That this risk could result in a lot of gain, okay? It's what you have to lose and what you have to gain. That's how we judge a good decision when it comes to risk, right? Risk assessment, basically. Is it a worthy risk, right? So the hardest decisions are when the potential outcome is great, where you're like, okay, I could have really high gains if I take this risk, but if I don't get those gains, then I stand to lose a lot. Those are the most difficult decisions because you don't know the future. You can weigh the options and the potential outcomes and say, what is the likelihood of me winning? What is the likelihood of me losing? And you can weigh that risk and say, is it worth the risk? So these big gambles, which I'm not saying this is necessarily a big gamble, but what I'm saying is it obviously has the potential for you to end up losing here. You've got the Five of Pentacles coming out right next to the Fool in reverse. So what I'm getting is that you're afraid to take this risk because you do stand to lose something here, but you also stand to gain. But I'm not seeing a huge gain. I'm seeing more of a load taken off of your plate here, with the Ten of Wands in reverse, which is really, I'm sorry, I need to sip. With the Ten of Wands in reverse, that's more so making me feel like that this situation, that it's like you want to kind of reduce your struggle, right? That seems like a motivating factor here, is you may want to reduce your struggle. So a lot of times when we're in a state of struggle, we can take risks because we're like, you're just like, you get burnout, or you get to like the end of your rope, you know what I'm saying? Or you get to a place where you're just like, I don't think I have it in me to continue on this way, basically. Like, this is when you're struggling in a 9-to-5 and you've got, you know what I mean? Like, kids to feed and it's expensive, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the vibe that I get, is that when you're in this place of burden, right? And you're carrying all these burdens, sometimes that can cause us to, I don't want to say get desperate, but it can cause us to say yes to things that we normally wouldn't if we weren't in a place of struggle. So it's not like you're coming from this place, because you're coming from this place as a Page of Pentacles, Virgo, which is definitely your energy here. I'm getting that you don't have a lot to invest, you know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? You don't have a lot to invest, and it feels like you would get something out of this. It would help reduce your struggle, but I don't think it's going to make you a millionaire. You know what I mean? But it could result in you losing out on whatever it is that, because, okay, I will say another thing, and Spirit's telling me to say this. There are a lot of scams going around out there right now, y'all. And this is because people are struggling. Not only does that make them more susceptible to being scammed, but the people who are the scammers, they're the ones also who are struggling, right? You have to understand that not every scammer is somebody who sits around and just, you know, sips their fucking, you know, mimosas or whatever, and it's just like, haha, you know, I'm just scamming all these old people or whatever, you know what I mean? A lot of times the people who do the scamming are a part of pyramid schemes where that they are actually being brought in and they're invested and they, you know, get paid by commission, or they get, you know what I'm saying? It's, you know, it's not always just like a one-man operation. It's usually a team of people who work on it, you know what I mean? And then they all get something out of it, but they're all kind of stuck in this struggle place too, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that right now there's a lot of really good scams going around where that it's like you feel like it's real, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, this is legit, this is actually going to help get me places, but I just have to put in a little bit to get started, you know what I mean? And seriously, Spirit's saying like pyramid schemes, like, because you'll be like, oh, I can get into this, and then I can help other people get into this, and then eventually I'll work my way up the ladder, and the more people that I get in under my name, the more money I make, yada 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 yada, right? But you have to understand that some of these schemes aren't even money-making opportunities at all. They literally just will take your money, and then nothing else happens, right? So I'm not trying to tell you that you need to be paranoid, you know what I mean? This is really about you getting in touch with your intuition. And I do think that you're feeling really stuck right now. Either you're feeling stuck financially, like in your current situation, you're just not really seeing a way out. And I think that's part of the reason why you're looking at these options. You're looking at this option here. But I'm seeing two things here. This is the toss-up. This is what you're weighing right now. Because you're like, I'm stuck where I'm at. You have the Magician coming out next. And the Magician is telling me that you feel like if I just finesse this a certain way, if I just utilize the tools that I have, because the Magician utilizes the tools, all of the elements here, to call down from the ethers what they desire into the physical world, right? That's what the Magician does. So it's like that is what you're attempting to do here. But I'm getting with the Fool card in reverse and the Five of Pentacles, you're like, if I don't take a risk, then, you know what I mean? Then I might end up in a worse position, right? But you're like, but if I take this risk, I'm worried to take the risk because I could end up in a worse position, right? So you're kind of in this place where it's almost like you need something to believe in, or you need something to look forward to. You know what I mean? Something new that's going to help you drop your burdens, right? So the card that I think is one of the most important cards on the table right now is the Temperance card. And this is coming out right before the Fool card in reverse. So the other message that I'm getting that I think is really important for you, Virgo, is to be patient, okay? And to be balanced. You want to think about this decision. You know, it doesn't matter, okay? Because there's a lot of these scams, and also not just scams. This is just a tactic that people get or people use to get you to commit to something financially. Is that there's a time limit, that it's an offer that's going away. There's only this many left, right? These are all marketing tactics. And so if you're looking at a decision and any of that is a factor where that it's like you have to act quick, you know what I mean? There's other people in line, so you have to act quicker than other people are going to. This is in high demand. It won't be here tomorrow. All that sort of thing. Then you need to question this opportunity and be like, oh, you know, I mean, yeah, if it's a job, then yeah, if there's other applicants, they're like, we're making you a job offer. Do you want the job or not? Because if you don't, then we're going to hire someone else. You know what I mean? That's legit. That is legitimate. But if this is an investment opportunity, you know, it could even be stocks, where that you're afraid that if you don't invest in the stocks now while they're like, you know, while their value is lower, because they'll be cheaper. So, you know what I mean? If the value is low, that's when you want to buy into a stock before the price goes up, right? Because when the price goes up, the value of the stock goes up, and that's how you make money in the stock market, right? So it's almost like you may be looking at the stock market and you're interested in investing in certain stocks, but you're like, you know, if I don't invest in them now while they're cheap, then, you know what I mean? Then other people are going to get in there, and then the stock's going to go up, and then I'm not going to be able to buy in because it's going to be too expensive then. You know what I mean? And that's literally how the stock market works, because basically the value goes up as the company's value goes up. So because you're buying a piece of the company, basically, you know, that's what a stock is. Some of you might already know that. I'm not trying to break it down for you too rudimentary, but what I'm saying is that when companies, like, when their value increases, it's typically because they get more clients, make more contracts with others, or they, you know what I mean, have more customers, their customer base expands. It's just like Zoom, okay? Zoom freaking went off the map when the pandemic hit, because their customer base exploded, because it was necessary. Zoom was like literally necessary for people to go to school, for people to go to work, for people to communicate, for businesses to continue to operate remotely. Like, seriously, Zoom like took over the market, like in that sector. And so their stock prices skyrocketed. And so that was because their customer base expanded, and their value as a company expanded because their revenue expanded, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So this is how it works. And so basically, if a company is valued at a certain level right now, but you find out that they just contracted with, like, you know what I mean, a major company, and so they're going to, that their revenue is going to go up, and that their value as a company is going to go up, but their stocks are low now. So you may be like in this state of like, I need to buy these stocks right now, or else I'm not going to be able to get in on this. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people out there like these, they're not brokers necessarily anymore, because you don't really need, you can use apps now to invest in stocks, which is also pretty cool. So then you don't have to necessarily even like work through anybody, but there's people who are like, they have inside knowledge, which is not insider trading, because, you know what I mean, it's like, it's just public knowledge, but they're just bringing it to the public, you know what I mean, kind of like, oh, I'm ahead of the curve kind of way, right? So, you know, when people are like, I know which companies are going to increase in value soon, and these are the stocks you need to buy, it's like there's people out there who are selling that information, you know what I mean? So you may be in this position where that you're like, I feel stuck financially, I feel stuck in my life, I'm trying to manifest my for less struggle. I'm literally trying to manifest less struggle in my life here. But you want to be patient and balanced as you move forward here, because you don't want to take a leap of faith and a risk into something that is going to end up putting you in a worse off position. You see what I'm saying? And so you want to be careful, because, you know, like I said, if you're in a place of struggle, you may be making decisions based on fear of poverty, fear of continuing to be stuck, right? So there's different kinds of fear. You can make decisions because you're more afraid of staying where you are than you are of moving forward. So you're willing to take a risk, even if that means that it could put you out in the cold, because you're just, you know what I mean? Your back's against the wall, basically. So Spirit is trying to encourage you to not, Spirit's trying to encourage you to not become too stuck in a decision, and to not become too worried, or that you're like, I'm afraid that things are never going to change. I'm afraid that I'm going to, that things are going to go downhill. You know what I mean? So you don't want to live in a place of fear, but you also want to use your fear wisely, if that makes sense, you know? Because you're like, if you are in a position where it's like, you're afraid of missing out on something, then you could make a dumb decision. But you know what I mean? But if you're afraid of it not working out, then you could not make a decision at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. It is hard. This is where our intuition comes in to help guide us. The biggest thing is something I heard recently that was honestly really helpful, because I struggle a lot, and have, like, in the past it's been different. It all depends, because things can happen to you that then kind of make your fear louder, because you're like, okay, I want to prevent that from happening again, right? So sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between your intuition and your fear, right? Or I should say your intuition and your paranoia, or your fear and your paranoia, right? Because we want to remember, fear can be based in reality, or it's based in potential outcome. It's based in likelihood, knowledge, all of that, right? Fear is not necessarily a bad thing, but intuition is based in the unknown, right? It's just the feeling that we get. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but I just feel like it's weird for some reason. That's why our intuition exists, because we can't always know everything, but we have to rely on ourselves, in that way, because the world is mysterious and because people are manipulative and secretive, and there are things that we don't know. And so we have to be careful, you know what I mean? To a certain extent, right? It's like, do I walk through the door just because there's a smiling person on the other side saying, come on in? You know what I mean? It's like, there could be someone standing off to the side that I don't see, right? So what do my feelings tell me, right? You get what I'm saying? I'm just giving you an example. Not to be like, you know what I mean, scary, but I'm just trying to give you an example. But paranoia is fear run off the tracks. You know what I mean? It's fear based in the unknown. You know what I mean? So does that make sense? Paranoia is also based in the unknown. And that's what makes paranoia and intuition so easy to mix up. So a really good thing that I heard recently was that paranoia will cause you to make quick decisions, right? Intuition will do the same, but here's the difference, is that paranoia will cause you to act irrational. It's so difficult to distinguish. It really is. And I know a lot of people struggle with this. But so intuition can cause you to act quickly, and it can also cause you to act irrationally based on other people's perspective, right? To you, you're like, okay, maybe this seems irrational, but like it feels like the right thing to do. So paranoia is more like, it's irrational, but it's because it's irrational based on a conception. Okay, God, I was like, how do I do this? Because I seriously want to explain this because I think it's really important. But it's more like your paranoia says, what if, right? Your intuition says, right? Your intuition is just like, something tells me that this is weird. Your intuition makes you pull back, right? Your paranoia will do the same thing, but your paranoia makes you think, well, what if it's this? And it makes you conceptualize possibilities. Whereas your intuition typically doesn't make you necessarily conceptualize a what if. Your intuition is just like, I don't think so. You know what I mean? Your intuition is like, Like, your intuition is curiosity, right? Does that make sense? And your paranoia is definitely more like anxiety. And the paranoia is more like, how do I explain this? So your intuition is curiosity, but your paranoia is more like, it's more like fear, definitely. Which is why I think fear gets a bad rap a lot of the time, because people can be afraid of irrational things. That's paranoia. It's different. You know what I mean? But being afraid of something that's legitimate, right? Where you're like, I'm afraid that if I just keep using driving as like an analogy. I'm afraid if I drive on the opposite side of the road that like I'm going to hit an oncoming car. That's a legitimate fear. You're like, I'm afraid of, you know what I mean, jumping further than I know I can jump. I can only jump like 5 feet. You know, that's pretty far to jump. But I mean, you know what I mean? But I'm afraid of trying to jump this gap because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make it, right? And I'm going to fall and get hurt. You know what I'm saying? That's a legitimate fear, you know? I think it's based on knowledge. It's based on potential outcome. Like, you're like, it's pretty likely that if I drive on the opposite side of the road, like at some point I'm going to come across another car. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to do that because it's fucking stupid. Excuse my language, right? There's really obvious ones, and then there's not so obvious ones, like making decisions when we don't have all the answers. We're only being presented with enough information for us to discern, is this a good choice, right? We're weighing it. A lot of times we have to do our research here. So in this particular situation, Spirit's saying, let's go ahead and get back to the cards. But like, I'm trying to help you out because this is something that, you know, many times our choices can actually become things that make us feel stuck and we get hung up, right? But remember, you have the Two of Swords in reverse. So this is about you making a decision, okay? You've got the King of Cups in reverse. This could be coming through as somebody that you're dealing with here. It could be a water sign. Also, maybe you have water in your chart. But this could be like a false generosity, I'm getting. Maybe somebody who's not very emotionally balanced. The Hermit. The Hermit says, go forward without fear, right? And I'm not necessarily telling you that's what you should do, but that's what the Hermit represents. The Hermit represents going within and shining your own light out into the world, because that's what the Hermit does. Like the Hermit, it's about having trust, right? To a certain extent, or having faith in yourself. Five of Swords in reverse I just saw, which is talking about the Sun card in reverse. Interesting, because the Sun card in reverse was one of the first cards that fell out of the deck, but I was like, that's a horrible way to start a reading. and also all those other cards fell out too, so I was like, let's just, you know what I mean? But I'm kind of feeling like either you could be dealing with a Leo, or this could be talking about kind of like maybe like you lacking a certain amount of trust and faith and because children are driven by trust and fear. You know what I mean? Curiosity as well. That children are, you know what I mean? And I say children because of the Sun card. Because the Sun card really talks about, okay, that one. The innocence and the joy and the carefree abandon of a child, right? That's what the Sun card represents. So it's kind of like, because children have to trust their caretakers in order to receive what it is they need to survive, right? But then children are also need to fear other things like strangers or potential threats in order to protect themselves. And they're very instinct-based. Like children are instinct-based because that's what they have so far. The amount of knowledge that they have is really limited. So the way they make decisions is curiosity to learn and discover, right? Like I'm curious about what will happen if I do this and this. This is how they learn, right? Is curiosity, and then trust in their caretakers. Like I'm going to trust that the food you're feeding me is food that I should eat, right? Because they don't know any better. They're just, you know what I mean? That's how they survive, is by trusting that their caretakers are doing their job. And then the other is fear, so that they can avoid things that are dangerous, right? Like sometimes kids are afraid of dogs. Sometimes kids are afraid of other people. You know what I mean? Like other adults that they don't know, which is great, you know? But it can be a problem sometimes, but you've got the Fool card coming out in reverse again. So, Spirit. This is so funny because in the Fool card there is a dog. So Spirit's trying to remind you that your instincts and the things that you're afraid of are valid, okay? Maybe some of you all actually had a fear of dogs growing up. I don't know why I'm getting that for some of you. And maybe, wow, I'm getting a whole nother thing. So this King of Cups in reverse is starting to come out a little bit with that story, is that maybe somebody, maybe a caretaker even, devalidated your feelings because they were emotionally unbalanced and not very kind and generous and loving, okay? This is just something I'm getting. And so they might have devalidated your fear at an early age and made fun of you for it, right? And kind of been like, see, there's nothing wrong with the dog. The dog isn't scary. I don't know why you're afraid of this dog. You know what I mean? And kind of like, and forced you to overcome your fear of it, you know, before you were ready, you know, without like letting you cultivate that trust for the animal first and kind of like understand, you know, oh, based on my experience and me learning about this animal and me getting closer to this animal, right? That like, I recognize that it's not going to hurt me. But your initial fear is totally valid and it's instinctual. It's not something that, you know, kids just learn, you know what I mean? They don't learn to be afraid of dogs necessarily. Some of them might, you know, based on their experience, but most kids, they're instinctively afraid. And I'm not saying all kids are instinctively afraid of dogs. I'm saying the ones that are, They are because of their instinct that this is an animal that could hurt me. You know what I mean? It's unfamiliar. You know what I mean? And children are vulnerable, so they instinctively want to protect themselves, but also they're curious and will hurt themselves doing stupid things because they don't know they're going to get hurt. You know, that's part of how we learn. So it's the curiosity part, right? So I guess what I'm saying is that your initial instincts about this are valid. And I think that you need to recognize that you need to take a moment to just get back in touch with yourself before you start making decisions, especially regarding your finances, regarding something that could put you out in the cold here. I think it's important for you to get back in touch with your instincts and your intuition here, okay? And part of that is honoring your fear, you know? Eight of Wands. See, the Eight of Wands is about communication, right? And about action. And this is about rapid action, fast action, you know, and quick communication. So part of this could be that, like I said, you're receiving a lot of information, or it feels like there's a time crunch, like you have to or else, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And I just want to caution you about that, because I think that it's sometimes we can get caught up in the rush of it. And like you see in this card, like all the different parts of their brain are lighting up, you know what I mean? And a lot of times this means that we're fully engaged, you know what I mean? But what I'm getting from this card right now is that it's like, you like these different parts of your brain are lighting up all at the same time, where you're like excitement, fear, uncertainty, you know what I mean, possibility, hope, faith, you know what I mean, like magic, right? Like you know what I mean, you're feeling like this is a good opportunity. I feel like this could be a thing, you know what I mean? And it's like, yes, absolutely, it could be, right? That is a possible outcome. You know, I'm not telling you what it is or what it isn't. This is what the whole point of this reading is, that it is up to you. And it's up to you based on your understanding of yourself and of the world around you, which is, what is the difference between my intuition and my paranoia? How do I honor my fear without letting it run my life? How do I get back in touch with my instincts and my kind of like childlike trust in the universe, where that I trust the universe, but I also trust my discernment, and I trust my fear to help guide me, as well as my intuition, my curiosity, my instincts also. You know what I mean? So this is really talking about, like, don't take any leaps right now while you're feeling like, you know what I mean? If you're feeling stuck and trapped and you're trying to release these burdens and do this and that, I would just be patient, get back in touch with your energy here, and don't let any smooth, fast talkers kind of come in and push you off a cliff and be like, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. That's the other thing that I'm getting with this, that this is almost a trigger point for you, because you have had people do this to you in the past, potentially as a child, with the things that you were afraid of. I'm almost even getting, oh my God, somebody like where that you were afraid of swimming and somebody shoved you off the dock, right? Somebody pushed you out into the pool and was just like, you know what I mean? There's nothing to be afraid of, so just swim. Right? So it's kind of like that, where this is a trigger point for you, where you're like, am I being irrational? Am I being irrational? Like, that's your question to yourself, because you've been taught to disregard your instincts. You've been taught to suppress your fear, and you've been taught to, you know, basically like just take the leap. You know what I mean? And to trust the adult, right? To a certain extent. And so it's like, you know, I feel like obviously you are an adult, but it's like, whoever this person is, this opportunity, whatever is the vehicle that's bringing you this opportunity, is someone who is kind of triggering that part of you where it's like, you know what I mean, act now, like, you know, there's no time to waste, don't be afraid, you know what I mean, take the leap, yada yada yada, right? These are all tactics, okay? But it's also the same kind of thing that people do when they devalidate and discredit your fear and force you to do things that you don't want to do in order to prove to you that you are afraid of nothing, and that you're just defective, you know what I mean? Or you're being irrational, that you're afraid of this thing. It's like, it's not irrational to a child to be afraid of swimming when they can't swim. You know what I mean? The water it can be scary when you're a kid, because you're like, oh, I can't breathe in there. If I suck water into my throat, I choke, right? I can't keep myself above the water. I know that I could die. Instinctively, you know. And it's the same with animals. It's like you instinctively know that this dog could bite your face off. You know what I mean? Just because it's not going to, you don't know that. It's your instincts are just telling you what's possible. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? And that's the crazy thing about intuition and instinct and curiosity and paranoia is it's all about potential outcomes. We don't know for sure, but we have to navigate the world without knowing, you know? So we have to be able to trust ourselves. This is literally, I feel like the whole crux of the entire reading is trusting yourself, Virgo. Trusting that you can make wise decisions because so you don't feel stuck. You know what I mean? And you're going to make those decisions by getting back in touch with yourself. You know what I mean? Taking a moment. Just take a deep breath. If you're feeling pressured and rushed into doing something, guess what? You are not that kid anymore. Nobody can push you into a pool. No one can force you to pet the dog. You know what I mean? No, you get to choose the decisions that you make. You know what I mean? And if you don't take this opportunity, it doesn't mean your whole life is going to go down the drain. Seriously, it's going to be okay. You're still going to be where you're at. Maybe you don't love where you're at, but there will be other opportunities. You know what I mean? Like, so I just don't, you know what I mean? Don't stress yourself into a frenzy here, being like, you know, beating yourself up and being like, I won't take a chance because I'm afraid, or, you know what I mean? If I take this chance, that would be so stupid. Like, right? So you might be stuck in this place where you're just like fighting with yourself. So I'm just encouraging you to be kind to yourself and take a moment and be patient and get back in balance before you make a decision. Okay? I think that's pretty good advice, right? So yeah, it's hard. These are the hard decisions in life, right? You know what I mean? Because some decisions are not that detrimental where you're just like, oh, what flavor of ice cream do I want? You know what I mean? It's not that detrimental. But like when it comes to finances and life decisions, you know, investments, stuff like that, it can be detrimental because, you know, you put all your eggs in one basket and then the basket goes up in flames, then it's like, damn, you know, now I'm fucked, right? So you got to be careful, but at the same time, that's the whole point of a gamble, or that's the whole point of a risk, you know, or an investment. You just make wise investments. And then the more information you know, the easier it is to make a decision. You know what I mean? So that's also the other thing is, you know, but sometimes you have all the information and then you just have to trust your gut, you know, because that information could be false. It could be fake. You know what I mean? Could be lies, right? You never know. Seriously. So it's all up to you to figure it out. Don't stress yourself out about it, though. Okay. I am the dreamer of my dream. Right. With this Magician card, it's like that's part of this, too, is that you're recognizing the part that you have to play in your reality, you know, and the way things turn out for you. Yes. When I lean on the faith of the universe, peace becomes real. Absolutely. That's part of this, I feel like, is learning how to have faith in the universe, because sometimes we think also that that everything that comes by us is divinely guided from the universe. And I will tell you that if that was the case, then, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, then there wouldn't be scammers, right? Like, there's people who are off their path, and you can cross paths with people who are off their path while you're on your way. You know what I mean? And you have to deal with those people. And so you can't always think that, oh, I'm meant to see this person. I'm meant to bump into this person. I'm meant to help this person. Like, a lot of people need help, dude. You know what I mean? And you can't help all of them. So you have to trust your intuition and pick and choose. You know what I mean? And that's one of the hard realities of life. You know, sometimes you just got to keep it pushing. You know what I mean? And that's just, you know. So I think having faith in the universe that whatever does come your way, that you have the ability to discern whether or not to engage with it. You know what I mean? Yes, I love this card. So my capacity to tune in to the energy of love gives me the words I need when I'm ready to speak up, the compassion I need when it's time to forgive, and the power I need when I am lost. Yes. This is all about self-assurance. This is about trusting yourself and about trusting the universe, because you know that when you get in touch, you know what I mean? And this could be one of the other reasons why the King of Cups is coming out in reverse, is because this could be talking about you not being in touch with the power of love, which is a universal energy. It's not about loving somebody else or loving, you know, a thing or loving yourself. It's just an energy. You know what I mean? And that energy is what motivates us to do acts of love. You know what I mean? So the energy comes in. It's like an emotion also. It's an emotion, but it's also a vibrational state of being. You know what I mean? And not to get woo-woo on you, but you know what I'm saying, is it really is like it's a universal energy that powers a lot of things. You know what I mean? And love and fear aren't necessarily opposites either. You know what I mean? Personally, I think it's love and hate. I think those are the two opposites, you know? So I don't know what people are all talking about, like, don't live in fear, live in love. It's kind of like, okay, but when I'm living in love, I still can be afraid of things that are dangerous. So I'm not going to stand here and be like, I'm living in love, and just like let people harm me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm afraid of that motherfucker because he's got a gun. Excuse my language. You know what I mean? Fuck, I have every right to be afraid of that, you know? So don't tell me what to do. So I don't know. I'm just the type of person, I am totally like that though. Like I do resist groupthink if, like, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't resonate with me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that I think you should live in fear. Absolutely not. You got to be brave. Courage is feeling the fear and then doing it anyway. Right? So courage is important when we do have to take risks and we have to, you know what I mean, make decisions that are dangerous, right? But we know it's the right thing to do because of the potential outcome if we don't act, right? And this is the concept. Like, I should make a whole video just on that concept because it's something that I've had to really, really grapple with throughout my life. It's just like, okay, yeah, I'm afraid to step into this situation, but I know that somebody needs to, you know what I mean? Someone needs to do something here, and I'm right here, and so I'm feeling called to do it. So my intuition is telling me that if I step into this situation, then I can prevent more harm from happening. You know what I mean? But I'm afraid to do it because what if I get harmed in the process, right? You know what I mean? But it's like self-preservation versus, love for others, altruism, right? So there's just, it's such a difficult balance to strike. So your capacity to tune into the energy of love gives you the power that you need to make decisions when you feel stuck, when you feel lost. You know what I mean? So you have to tune into that love. And it's really about also, it's like loving yourself enough to say, I trust my feelings. I trust how I feel about something. And guess what? If I'm wrong and I walk away from this, okay. You know what I mean? But if I'm wrong and I go into this, you know what I mean? Then what? Like, it's almost like I'd rather just leave it, because if I don't know and my intuition or my energy is just like I'm just like not sure. If I'm so stuck on a situation that I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? A lot of times it's like, do nothing. You know what I mean? Seriously. Like, if it's stressing you out to that level and you're just like, do I do it? Do I not do it? And you're weighing the pros and cons. It's like, sometimes you do need to take a minute and just chill out and just be like, okay, I'm not going to make a decision today. I'm going to wait until I'm in a better headspace and I'm more connected to my inner, knowing. I'm more connected to my intuition, my love, like the universe. Then I'm going to be in a way better place to make this decision, because it's like, at this point, the knowledge is there. It's just my intuition now. So now I'm grappling, you know what I mean? So we grapple with the paranoia and the intuition. We're like, okay, these are the unknowns. So our paranoia tells us what if, right? And our intuition is curious, right? Our intuition causes us to calm down, where we're like, we look a little deeper, right? Or our intuition causes us either to look deeper or to back away. You know what I mean? But our paranoia causes us to get anxious and be scared and want to act quickly. We want to do something to just like eliminate the anxiety, right? So it's like, you'll start to get it. You'll start to figure it out. And sometimes it can be hard, especially when, like I said, it's a risky decision. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here for you, Virgo, because I'm kind of getting on a tangent. But I really hope that helped, because this is, you know what I mean, I think a concept that a lot of people, have questions about and struggle with, you know what I mean? So hopefully it, helped you and gave you something to chew on, think about, right? So anyway, I appreciate you, Virgo. Please do like, comment, share, or subscribe before you leave. It's a free and easy way to help support me and my channel. Also, if you need a dream interpretation, I do offer that as well. That is in the description box below, as well as my donation links if you want to drop me a donation. It really means a lot. It makes a big difference. Yeah, that's it. So I appreciate you. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.